Nichel MOLIAE, to mold of divinity, embrace, for unity of our royal Nichel MOLIAE, leaders of who we are, Atlantis, never far from greatness. We forever stand tall. Atlantis. Hey yo, Queen Empress, Nichel MOLIAE. Stand tall, never fall to the rise with wings of Atlanta. Power makers, we are.
Everyone, this is Nichel Anderson, and I'm the host of my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. We're going to go ahead and get into this. I just want to say a quick thank you for all those that are following my journey here, particularly with my short stories, as well as my other podcasts. If you're following me on both, I appreciate that. And we're going to kind of go into that. I just want to say thank you for that. I do see people like really following how I'm connecting my brand, MOLIAE World. And I just want to say a big thank you. And we're going to get into my director clip notes. The last few that I have done for this year's season 9 have been long. This is going to be short, even though I'm covering 3 from the ones that I need to kind of finish, I haven't done, and then going back to season 1. So we're going to get into that right now. This is January, so Happy New Year, everyone, 2026. I'm looking forward to the remaining months of my season 9. So far, to give you a quick update what's going on with me, I am in the position of relaunching my PMTR NFTs. So that's Pyramid Mystery Temple Reunion. I am looking for 50 founders, and that would be people that is a part in the beginning, right? So you get definitely free things as well as access to the MOLIAE world, and that's the ecosystem with the merch, different events, and all of that good stuff. When I go back and actually start filming, get behind the scenes, you get your own Discord and channel, access to me, what have you, as well as the team. So do look into that type of information. You can find that on the blog on MOLIAE.com. And the other thing is my music is released. I released that in August of last year, if you haven't heard. And it is available. The songs, you can probably find it like on streaming, but not a lot. Let me just put it that way. So it's 12 songs, and it's at least 4 that you can't get. You have to get on my website. And that's part of the DTC, direct to consumer, that I have in my MOLIAE world ecosystem. And again, the PMTR is going to be relaunched, available for minting on mint.moliaeworld.com. And that's on Dr. W.B. Du Bois' birthday. Isn't that something? So do check that out. And let's get into this episode, because I don't want it to be long. It's going to be short. That's my goal. And I'm going to cover 4 episodes. And I'm not going to play like the clip like I did the last one. I'm going to try to keep this short, but I will have the links to the episodes in the product description, and you can click that and go there. All right. So my director clip notes, if you're just kind of joining me or you want to kind of get a fresher up, what does it mean? My director clip notes is behind the scenes of the production of my podcast episodes that deals with these short stories that I created this podcast show now 9 years ago, podcasting. From my book that started it all, with my connection to ancient Egypt that I call Mitsrayim. The book is called Mitsrayim, a Memoir of a Past Life, Egypt. So my dream was to always bring that book to become a film. So how long it's been now? I moved to Atlanta in 2005. So it's been that long since I've been in Atlanta. And you can kind of see other episodes about that journey. And to get to the point that I'm in the position and I can focus more better, and like I want to do my film. I did other things, misguided here and there, all that drama. It's a podcast show, several podcast shows. I talk about that. Sometimes people don't live up to what their position in life, in the sense of we here to help one another, and they can misguide you. That just taught me a lot of lessons. So now I'm just full forward in creating things that lead me to creating my dream, which is turning my book into a feature film, Mitsrayim. With that, fast forward, here we are with these short stories that the timeline is before the time of Princess Aamina. That's me. And I started that with that first episode, and then it has progressed to what it is now. This is the MOLIAE short stories, and it's before the main character of my book was born, and so I'm going back like in time, but you're finding out new characters and so forth. So I've been so busy with producing music as another avenue to kind of put on my plate to help me with my dream to create my movie, and God spoke to me to do the film, which I want to go ahead and say my prayer. In the name of the Lord, I give thanks to the Heavenly Father Jesus that has blessed me with my podcast for my purpose journey and to help those to find and to keep their joyfulness as well for their forward moving path. Amen. I'm so grateful for Jesus. It wasn't for him, y'all, okay? And here I am. Getting back to what I wanted to say regarding the show. Here we are with these short stories. So MOLIAE short stories like the top of the pyramid here. And then I have these other short stories, Mahogany, Atlantis, of course, that series. And I do the Power of the Week, which I'm reading basically the timeline of the Harlem Renaissance that was created by Dr. W.B. Du Bois. And I am reading his book, The Souls of Black Folk. And I take my time with it, y'all, because it's so good. And the next book that I'm actually going to be starting this year would be Nichel Hurston, Miss Hurston. And that's Their Eyes Were Watching God. So I love that book. I get more into it once we start next month during that week of Dr. Du Bois' birthday. So anyway, the directed clip notes is where I go back and I review the episode. I kind of break it down, give you behind the scenes. This show, I'm going to not be long. The other ones was like an hour and so long. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to narrow this down and get to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. Okay? All right. Let's get into it. So the next episode of my directed clip notes that I had to catch up because I was doing my music, and that took 3 years. So I finished my album as an independent artist. It released in August of 2025. So now my season starts from September to May of the next year, which is 2026. And I'm at now to catch up because I had to put this to the side, do my directed clip notes. I usually do it a few times during the season, but I had to put it on hold as I mentioned. And that is going to be episode 64. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and start. So this episode here is going to be episode 64. Henny sends a letter to King Milan. I'm just going to kind of talk about the main takeaway. I remember these episodes, so it should be good. All right. This particular episode after episode 63, go back and check out my that's last month in December the 22nd when I released that about Queen Hagar enters the realm of Orion. The next episode I did from that is where now we're finding out where Henny is. And Henny arrives in this particular galaxy on this planet. It's a very huge planet, almost like the size of Jupiter. But it's in a different galaxy because he decided to depart from Orion. That's why Queen Hagar arrived in Orion to speak amongst all of those dignitaries or what have you. 64, the next one, Henny basically has arrived. He's in hideout. He's with a friend of a friend, and he's with his wife and children. They made it there, and he's getting accustomed to realize what he gave up but what he had to do. And this particular episode is very good because has to connect to Milan. It gets towards the end. It leads up to that where Henny is thinking he needs to explain in the previous episode before all this happened, when Henny was in his realm of authority as a high general and on top of the main council in Orion, he arrived to Tamat. One of the episodes, I think this might be season 5 or season 6, don't quote me on it, but he arrives with all of his soldiers or what have you, and he's talking to one of the Western tribal leaders, and that's where he's looking for, quote unquote, their star. What that star is, I haven't revealed it yet. You got to keep listening and tuning in. But fast forward to this episode where his whole life, and he doesn't have that power anymore, and he's in hiding, safe contact, okay, that he can contact with, who's living with, and his family is living with, and he decides to write a letter to King Milan and to send it so King Milan can see what's really going on. Like, it was a reason why he arrived. It's a very episode, and he was advised it would be best to seek to obtain call them kings, not pharaohs, back in ancient time, ancient Kemet or what have you. They were overseers of these tombs of books or artifacts, we can say. And it's something about similar to what the star is. And so he's kind of explaining that to him. That's what the letter is in a way. And it's basically to connect, to see if they can have a truce, even though his position has dropped. But he feels that there's a link there that he can probably connect to Milan and tell him, really who was the person that orchestrated the battle of what happened before episode 1. So episode 1 of my show, Before the Time of Princess Aamina, that's Queen Hagar, rulership of Mitsrayim, ancient Egypt, because it was some type of battle, like some whole bunch of tribal leaders and others, what have you, fought against Egypt, Mitsrayim. And so that's what Hani is kind of like, let me kind of tell you what's really going on. Think of it that way. So that's a very good, interesting, finding out what happened next type episode. So do check that out. Let's move on to episodes. And right quick, let me talk about the data. So right now, that was released in season 6. Season 6 year was 2022 to 2023. And I have that it was very popular. Was in a sense it got 1,752,000 downloads. It was released on April the 10th, 2023. So we moved to episode 65. Okay, so that was released on May the 22nd, 2023. And that was King Milan speaks of disloyalty and an Orion is born. That was the finale show. I ended my show in May. And that is currently download. That was popular too at 1,772 downloads. And the finale of that is 2 parts to it. Milan gets the letter. He was like, okay, we'll see. It's interesting. Don't throw the letter away, but we'll see. And he got this letter right before he's in Pleiadian, so that's a different star constellation. And he was there with, Queen Hagar and the family. They went to Pleiadians by that time. So left the Orion and now they're in Pleiadians. Anyway, so he's very like, okay, we'll see, what have you. But he speaks of the disloyalty of the tribal leaders and we need to find who they are and get to the culprit of really who's been financing them. So he's saying this huge speech, like back then in ancient times, it's like how you spoke, how you command authority was your speech. That's why when Queen Hagar was selected to speak in Orion by these other species, what have you, she like really claimed not just her intellect, but her royalness, but, she became even more famous because they kind of knew, because she was able to speak different languages and she was able to speak theirs. And she just has, that allure, goldship, queenship. King Milan also has that ability. He was having a speech that traveled all the way back to, we call it Tamat then, now Earth. King Milan was speaking of the disloyalty and how we need to find the culprit because we should work as a community, and he was destined as the ruler on the planet. So, what's up like that? So that's the speech that he does. It's very good. I believe on this one it might be this one or the previous one, where I had a friend come on and he's been reading for King Milan for me. But it's a very good episode. To me, it's very intense. He says a wonderful speech, and everybody is excited about his vision, because this is basically where he is reinforcing his rulership and command, and people just got to deal with it, that, his haters, whatever. So that happens, and then it goes back into another episode where I am back where Hani is, and I'm showing a particular time period that's important, that's connected to my book. So in my book, I introduced the Orions. There are 3. One of them is named Kishi. And when you go and listen to this, if you haven't already, towards the basically turn the page to get further closer to the timeline of my book, and I call that the baby is named Kishi. I'm going to leave it there. But it's very dramatic. I love that part. And if you've been following me or you read my book, I'm putting some of the pieces together to connect to the timeline of my book through these short stories, the MOLIAE short stories. Like I said, they're the top of my pyramid, which is happen to be connected to my NFTs, Period Mystery Temple Reunion. So it all connects. And towards the end of that episode, the baby is born. And this baby is basically the nephew of Henny. Okay? I don't know if y'all caught that. That was there when I released it back in 2023. But go back and listen to it because I'm dropping these gems. Okay, y'all? And that's how I introduce somebody that's connected directly to the book and connected to this character, this new character that I wrote out during my short stories timeline. Henny discover he has a nephew and they name him Kishi. And that's the same Kishi from my book, which Kishi is a very particular character, important character in my book. All right, that's 65. Let's go to episode 66. In episode 66 is going to be, I released that on April the 22nd, 2023. That currently has 1,223 downloads. And this one right here is Rulin. So, Rulin, let's see. Rulin responds to the position of King Milan's speech. And I said, and Orion sets a new path. Mainly, the big takeaway for that episode, you need to check it out, is where, okay, let me back up. Who's Rulin? Rulin is almost a love affair with Queen Hagar. I know, drama. Come on. And Queen Hagar knew Rulin pretty much before she met Milan. And Rulin just absolutely adore and love Queen Hagar. I never really got intense about it and when I first introduced him. But he's very particular because he's one of the tribal leaders. Like back then in ancient times, they call them tribal leaders. Sometimes kings in their own, villages or what have you. And he's one of the main one on the east coast of what we call Africa now. But when it was growing up, he knew Hagar during that time, a daughter. But then when she met later Milan, here we are. Okay, she became the queen in Egypt. Anyway, so he doesn't like King Milan. Rulin does not like. But he in the know because he's a tribal leader, so he know what's been going on, this and that. And when Milan had this speech in Pleiadians, it got all the way back to Tamat, aka Earth, and he's responding to that. There is somebody that shows up that Henny knows that's a part of who started the battle and the war against Egypt. And Rulin is responding how he feels about this call to action, call to find out who, that Milan spoke about, because when the king like that speaks, we're talking about Milan now, from that star constellation, it can travel all back, meaning very high influence, power, and, people like that, even the tribal leaders got to be in the know. He's responding to it, how he feels about it, and he wasn't directly a cause of it, but he knew about it and this and that. So anyhow, that's a good episode just to kind of understand from the tribal leaders' disagreement. Milan called them a disloyalty because some of them were with Egypt and they wasn't. They sided on these other people and sided with the Orions. And basically the Orions is there to get this star that is located in Egypt or in the pyramids, okay? And so that's an interesting thing like that. So anyhow, I like these episodes because continue to move forward in how important certain characters are, like Henny, Rulin. I haven't got a chance to really expand into his world, but I will. And his world is like near, I say Ethiopia. It's on the East Coast, but he know a lot of people all the way down in Congo, south of Africa. So he's a very big player. He has a lot of territory, all right, and that he oversees, rule of, and what have you, and he in the know. So the other episode was focusing on a bonus that I was also going to do this season 9, and that is to go back to my season 1 just to kind of take and absorb all the work that I've done. And that episode was episode 24. And that's basically any day can be a special day. And that basically is with King Milan and grandfather elder, which is the grandfather of Princess Aamina, is of my book. At this particular timeline, only Hannah, the sister to Princess Aamina, is born. And grandfather Tahib elder is like one of those, he's one of those high rank people of the temples and the secret societies in the sense of higher intellect. You had to get, it's kind of mystics at some point. that we would describe it to get in. He's like the, one of the master teachers. And so he's the father of Hagar. So he has a very good, interesting relationship with King Milan. I love when I did it. I love when I look back, listen to it, and how I overlaid the music. Of course, this was preparing me for in the future to do my album when I was the engineer to mix it, my songs. But this particular episode just kind of I love intellectual conversation. I love where it's a problem, we're talking about it and we're sharing different perspectives. So different perspective to me is learning, adapting, seeing the best way. That's the journey. And then coming to the conclusion of what the end result is. How do we accept it or come to terms with it? And it's a nice build up where he and King Milan is talking about everything as King Milan officially taking his throne back after healing from the battle and the war that happened before the first episode of this show. And that first episode was, you call it, Before the Time of Princess Aamina, episode 1 with Queen Hagar taking the stage. So that's a very good episode. I like that. So I highly recommend that episode. All right. Now with that one, that's when I was with Spreaker. And so when I moved my episode to Podbeam, I didn't get all my stats. So right now it's showing 640 downloads. It was season 1. Now this was a clip it. That's when I was trying to raise money back then, what have you, for my film there. That's the clip snippet. And that was released on April the 23rd, 2018. And that was season 1, 2017 and 2018. So on those type of episodes, if I look at all of them, I guess I wanted to if I have to say and describe it, it's where I'm focusing on delivering the best message possible that people can connect to my world that later on here in 2026 is the MOLIAE world. So that's my creativity. That's which stands for MOLIAE, Moments of Love in Ancient Egypt, from my book that talks about family, talks about your challenges, either from people or just going through different obstacles and moving forward and progressing in that and connecting with people. I also learn now, it's also was teaching the importance of creating boundaries and owning your destiny, owning what is yours, claiming it and holding on to it and standing up to it. So these episodes here represents that. When Hani felt like, okay, I'm going to reach out to King Milan and look, let's talk about this man to man. Let's understand what's really going on, and I can share you information that you don't know you're looking for. And then Milan taking the stage and he having his speech and getting very well support that it travels all the way back about his speech back then to Tamat. And just to kind of look at how ruling is coming in from a perspective of a tribal leader to a king in Egypt, and how ruling is, in position to have influence as well in that sense. So I think these episodes, as this is episode 6, I went up to 66 here, further showed me of the journey of MOLIAE. It further showed me that I still have a lot of stories I can tell by branching out, but it's a consistent effort of from episode 1 to now, here I am at episode 66, that the power of knowing who you are, the power of understanding that and claiming it, and therefore projecting your authority leaves your name in the history books or whatever you want to say. And it teaches us to be you in the prism of defining what the purpose is. And I think that's in Milan's speech. If you go back and listen to that, that's in Hani's letter. It's a taking a risk, writing that letter, and it could trace back to where he at, but still kind of pushing towards to believe in what it is to be. All right. So that's that. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because I don't want this to be long. If you do want to check out those episodes, the links would be in the discussion. And guess what, y'all? Do follow me. Check out my PMTR NFTs. It's going to launch on February 23rd. I try to have another episode to kind of really dig into that. Talk about the numerology of it. Talk about how the value is. Do check out the blog article. I kind of get all into that and really it's a very good detailed article. And I didn't really get a chance right quick to let you know that I have been featured on some other magazine articles about my music that was released, so do check that out as well. All right, I did talk about, oh yeah, all my brands would be in this description if you want to support my dream. All right, talk to you in the next one.
For a unity of our royalness. Nichel MOLIAE, to mold of divinity empress. For a unity of our royal Nichel MOLIAE, leaders of who we are. Atlantis, never far from greatness. We forever stand tall. Atlantis. Hey yo, Queen Empress, Nichel MOLIAE. Stand tall, never fall to the rise with wings